Live. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Proverbial Masterminds. I'm Dr. Sherry, and this is Erin. And we're here to walk through the book of Proverbs. And can you believe, Erin, that we're in chapter 30, almost finishing with chapter 30?
It's insane to me. Like, we've been having these conversations since 2020.
I know.
Crazy town. Anyway, so yes, we are in chapter 30. We are back live this week. Hello, friends. It's good to see you. Yeah, so we're in chapter 30, verses 18 through 24. And do you want me to read? Do you want to read?
I can read. So actually, I was going to recommend, Erin, that we, just for the sake of contextual sense, that we stop at 23. And so then, next week we'll do 8 verses.
Okay.
This week we'll do 6.
I'm good. That sounds like a plan.
All right, so we're going to read from Proverbs 30, verses 18 through 23.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there are 3 things which are too wonderful for me. Yes, 4, which I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a virgin. This is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wickedness. For 3 things the earth is perturbed. Yes, for 4 it cannot bear up. For a servant when he reigns, a fool when he is filled with food, a hateful woman when she is married, and a maidservant who succeeds her mistress.
Oh,
A lot of little nuggets in here.
Oh, Agar, son of Jacob, and your inspired utterance to Ithiel.
These are inspired utterances.
I like how I really do find comfort isn't the word. Maybe it's just organization, like how he puts these things together in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up in my commentary, but it's funny, it doesn't really talk about what that means or, kind of why.
I think it's just his literary style.
Yeah.
Like when it's almost like somebody speaking and for emphasis, they're like, there's 3 things. Nope. There's 4.
There's actually 4.
So that to me, it's just, I don't know, it engages the reader like, oh, okay. So even he's giving this some serious thought,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, interestingly, okay, so let's just take like 18.
Yeah.
I had looked up this commentary and it says, it's really about the wonder, right? Like and that the wonder is that none of these 4 that he mentions leave a trace behind. So let's look at that, right? The eagle in the sky. If there's no trace of it, I mean, yes, if it landed and it had its nest, right? The snake on a rock, right? Slithering, no trace. The way of a ship on the high seas, no trace.
Yeah.
The last one I'm not sure of, the man in the NIV says the way of a man with a young woman.
Yeah. And then the New King James says the way of a man with a virgin. So it's interesting. Where are you getting no trace from? Which version is that in?
So this is Eliot's commentary for English readers. It doesn't give me a version of the word.
So it's interesting because when I was reading this, I can see that that's legitimate. Except the last one would probably leave a trace.
Yeah.
But the first 3, like when I was thinking about this, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he decided to include number 4, like without thoroughly thinking it through, because that's the one I can't tie into so well. But when I see that he says there are 3 things which are too wonderful for me, like, how does that happen? Like, how does it work?
Yeah.
Right? Like that, there's a show that used to be on, I think, the History Channel. I don't know if it still is, but it's called like How It's Made or something.
Yeah, we love that show.
Yeah. So how does this happen? What is the physics behind an eagle in the air? I wonder the same thing.
Yeah.
Because when it flaps to flight, but to soar, I
Yeah.
lost my thing. Hold on.
No, I can't. Yeah, gotcha.
But to soar,
It puts us, yeah,
it stops flapping,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like, how does that work? Similarly, let me jump down. The way of a ship in the midst of the sea, that still gets me. I don't get how a big, massive iron ship that weighs however many tons
Yeah.
floats on
Agreed.
water and doesn't sink.
Yeah.
It's incredible to me. I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm seeing this. But all of these things, so the Lord made the eagle and the Lord made the human who engineered the ship, right?
Mhm.
So,
Good.
and the way of a serpent on a rock, like, I guess it is interesting that they just kind of slither anywhere they want to go. They don't have little feet.
Right.
Like, what moves them forward?
Right. Yeah.
It's
That is
very
such a great
mysterious.
point. No, seriously, because when you think about it, right, like they make these little circles, but like, how does that propel them forward?
I don't know.
These are the mysteries and the marvels of the Lord. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
No, and I don't know. The last one, the way of, we at this point in our lives, we all know the birds and the bees. So not really that sure how that's so wondrous. Other than it's wondrous that we were created to fit together in a certain way.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, for sure. Now I'm looking at this other commentary, Matthew Henry's concise commentary, and it says, these are four things that cannot be fully known. The first three are about the kingdom of nature and its marvels. But then it says the fourth is a mystery of iniquity. The cursed arts by which a vile seducer gains the affection of a female.
Oh, ugh. Yeah.
And then the arts.
That's repulsive.
For verses 18 through 20. And then the arts which a vile woman uses to conceal her wickedness. Interesting. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that to me just speaks to the wonder of God's creation.
Yeah, all of it.
And it goes back to the very beginning. Excuse me, I cannot stifle that. It goes back to the very beginning of 30 when he's like, surely I'm more stupid than any man. I don't know, I don't have any knowledge of the Holy One, who, this one who established all the ends of the earth. What's his name and what's his son's name, if you know? So it's a marveling at God's creation.
So good.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I was away on this retreat so that you didn't see us live, but hopefully you caught the recordings. Every morning I marveled. Every morning. And it's interesting because the retreat attendees were not all believers. And so they were sort of marveling at my marveling. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, were they curious about your marveling?
They were sort of like, I brought up, there was someone was sharing and they were apologizing for what they shared. Just because like they got upset in the middle of their, because it was a healing the heart retreat. So people are healing. And I said, could I interject something? So in the Bible, in the book of Esther, and I started talking about, we always read the part that says, perhaps you've been made for such a time as this, but we skip the part before where Malachi is like, if you don't speak up, like your ancestry may be delivered and rescued, but you will perish, right? And so I was just saying, like, it's good that you spoke up because there may be other women at this table that by virtue of you sharing that, can heal or whatever. And someone said, can you explain that to me? Because I don't know what you're talking about in the Bible. I don't really know the Bible. So it was sort of like, wow. Anyway, my point is, how often do we stop and marvel?
Mhm.
I don't think we're always really good at that. Like, I know stop and smell the roses, but how often do we look out the window? And even though I can't stand that there are 5 spiders outside of my front door, like my husband always says, but they eat the bugs. And
They're
I'm
good.
like, but they're creepy.
They are, but
That's
they like weave a web in the dark in the
right.
middle of the night. It was
Right.
there at night when you went to bed, and suddenly this miraculous thing is there in the morning. Again, something else to marvel at.
Marvel. Anyway, but we digress.
We
Okay.
digress.
So that was the first triplet. So now let's look at the second triplet.
Well, did you do the this is the way of an adulterous woman, she eats and wipes her mouth? Did you do that? Did you talk about
Yes. So what this commentary had said, because it sort of coupled it with the end of 19, the way of a man with a young woman, it sort of coupled that with this adulterous woman by saying, it's,
Got
how
it.
the vile seducer gains affections of the female. And then verse 20, this is how a vile woman uses or conceals her wickedness.
Got it.
Yeah. I just want to look in another version because
When I read that verse, I think of somebody doing like something really reprehensible and just kind of like,
oh yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like what?
Or like, I picture like the let them eat cake moment with the queen. And she's like, huh.
Right. Like what?
Right. Right.
What did I do? Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Right.
Anyway. Okay. Moving on.
So 21 to 23. For 3 things, the earth is perturbed. Perturbed. That's a word I don't use every day, but now I'm going to start using it. I'm perturbed. Yes, for it cannot bear up. So perturbed is like perturbation, by the way. Perturbation is the word to use when the bubbles start to boil, when the water is boiling. Perturbation. So the water is disturbed. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All right.
Yeah,
so it upsets. These things upset the way that we understand the world. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. So number 1, a servant when he reigns. So a servant who becomes master. It's like, wait, what?
What? Yeah. How did that happen?
How did that happen? It's why we love like underdog stories.
Oh, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Or rags to riches stories, or these drastic kind of miraculous turnaround stories. Because it's the exception, it's not the rule.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we like to see the underdog win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A fool when he is filled with food. Here we go with the fools again. Well, yeah. I mean, if a fool is satisfied, right? He's filled with food. He's got energy. He's kind of bored now.
Yeah.
He needs to go find something to do.
Uh-huh. Yes.
He's going to upset something, or she.
Yes. 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 Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then the contemptible, in the NIV, it says the contemptible woman who gets married and a servant who displaces her mistress. What did your version say about
a hateful woman when she is married? So basically, like, marrying somebody who is hateful that's going to upset the world.
Yeah.
Your world is going to be perturbed.
Yeah. It's funny when I read these 3 together, I'm looking in the Amplified. It says, under 3 things, the earth is disquieted and quakes. Under 4, it cannot bear up. So it trembles, it's disturbed, like you talked about. A servant when he reigns. So we talked about that. A fool when he is filled with food. An unloved woman when she gets married. And then a maidservant when she supplants her mistress,
Mhm.
which in some ways is like 22, like
servant,
the
yeah.
servant who reigns. But then also I wonder if this is like the maidservant took like, was she undermining her mistress? I don't know. But
Well, look at who was very angry in the Bible? Sarah.
oh, Sarah, yeah. I mean, she gave Hagar.
And she did it. She was behind it.
Yes.
But it still perturbed the heck out of her.
It did.
Enough to say you got to banish that woman.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, so I'm looking at this commentary and it says slander. No, wait, that's not it. 4 sorts of persons are troublesome. Men of low origin and base spirit who, getting authority, become tyrants. Foolish and violent men indulging in excesses. A woman of a contentious spirit and vicious habits. And a servant who has obtained undue influence. Shaking it up.
Well, and it's like that last one is like modern day Lifetime movies where the husband falls for the nanny.
Yes. Yeah.
And the whole family is like shaken up.
Of course. Yes. I was just thinking about this morning. I watched the series Mad Men, like, I don't know, during the pandemic. And I don't know if anybody's watched it. However, what happens is exactly that. Like, the main character separates from his wife, but then he like gets visitation with his kids. So then he hires this nanny and then he falls in love with her. And then I'm wondering, I don't know why this came to me this morning. I mean, maybe it was because I read this. And then then the kids are like supposed to be friends with her. And like, now she's their stepmother, right? I don't know. Yes, that is perturbing.
Perturbation. Now you've learned a new word, everyone.
A new word. I love that. Okay. So next week, we're going to be continuing in Proverbs 30, but we are going to go, what did you say? We're going to go
24 to 31.
31.
24 to 31.
24 to 31. And then friends, the week after that, we'll be finishing up 30 and going into the final proverb.
Woo!
I mean, come on. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Crazy. So we're just here minding the master's wisdom. Join us, share this. If you're just joining us, go back and watch some of our other discussions. Yeah. We had some really funny ones.
We did.
Yeah, they were good. They were always good. It's always good to discuss the Lord's word. So we'll see you next week, 2:00 Eastern on Friday. We'll see you then, friends.
Bye, friends.